really, really excited for this panel. Hope you guys are too. So we don't have that much time, so let's just jump into it. We're just going to go down the row and have you all tell us a little bit about your company and your role there. And Ben, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you so much for having me. I'm Ben Gray. I'm the Global General Counsel at Paxos. Paxos is a regulated blockchain infrastructure company. So if that just sounds like words to you, like my family, what that actually means is that we are basically using blockchain technology to connect traditional financial institutions, institutional investors with digital assets. And our goal is to use blockchain to tokenize all of the world's assets and then be able to move them at the speed of the internet. So that's really what we're about. Our business kind of manifests in a couple of different ways. We have a large stablecoin business, which I know is very top of mind for people right now, so happy to talk about that a little bit.
Wait, really?
Yeah, right.
Good for you.
Coinbase knows all about that. We offer a crypto brokerage service where we offer essentially the ability of financial institutions to offer crypto custody, transfers, and buy, sell, hold liquidity to their end users. And then we also have a settlements business where we provide settlement across the blockchain for equities, transactions, commodities, those types of things. So we are, as I said, we're a regulated company, which is pretty unique for us. We've been regulated by the NYDFS since 2015 as a trust company. So a little bit different kind of arrangement than you might see in some of the other companies, but that's Paxos. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Parker. I am a relatively recent joiner at Coinbase. I'm the Deputy General Counsel, and I lead up the U.S. regulatory team. I know everybody's heard of Coinbase. We have a lot of interesting things that we offer and that are in flight, frankly. In addition to our spot exchange and our custodial services, we have a lot of pretty exciting Web3 offerings in the DeFi space, in the yield space. With our self-hosted wallets, we've obviously just rolled out our NFT platform. And this is particularly exciting to me because I come from the regulated financial products background. We are about to launch some pretty exciting derivatives offerings in the US. Later this year through our DCM, our CFTC exchange, and our CFTC broker. So that to me, I'm delighted to geek out over that if anybody has questions about crypto derivatives. But we have a broad range of offerings, and we're really trying to lean into the regulated financial product space, like my counterparts at Paxos and Gemini. We have a range of regulators, primarily the New York Department of Financial Services. We've got a trust co and a BIT license. We also are heavily engaged, obviously, with the CFTC for those regulated entities and continue to engage with regulators here in the US and abroad as our international offerings go into flight.
I'll go next. I'm Igor Klayman. I'm an Associate General Counsel at Gemini. Very happy to be here. If you all were here to see Sydney Schaub, I apologize. I will do my best impression. But I manage a team at Gemini responsible for a lot of our regulatory efforts. We also have a DFS regulated stablecoin. We also have a derivative strategy. We registered a broker-dealer to do digital asset securities earlier this year. And we do a lot of work with institutions looking to get into this space as well, and that's kind of Gemini. Very similar. I mean, people mostly know it as a spot exchange, as a custodian. We like to work with institutional partners that really want that high-grade custody, so we're the backer for a lot of ETFs that are out in the market in Canada and Australia. And likewise, we're trying to create an ecosystem that's trusted and regulated for customers, kind of a first port of call, right? So we offer custody and exchange, stablecoin. You can use it to, and then hopefully expand to other products and parts of the ecosystem. And we launched a credit card recently, which we'll talk about in a bit, which is also meant to be kind of, an on-ramp for people who are crypto curious and also long-time holders. But happy to talk about all that.
Well, we're really grateful that Igor was able to sub in last minute, even though we do miss Sydney, but you're doing great so far. So we wanted to get a little bit of your unique perspectives on your specific time in crypto and how you got into the exchange world, like what's your background, because everybody wants to be in crypto these days. So we'll just keep going down the line if that's cool with you guys.
Okay, sure. I'll go first. So prior to being at Paxos, I was at Square, or now it's known as Block. It will always be Square to me. But you know, the Block is actually kind of an interesting thing. So we launched crypto there back in December of 2017, and I will never forget this. I was abroad visiting a team, and I got a call at 3 in the morning from my boss at the time. She was the general counsel, and she said, it was December 1st, she said, we're going to launch crypto by Christmas, which was 3 weeks. And so as the chief compliance officer, my immediate reaction was, oh my God, what does that mean? What do we need to do? But really that set off kind of the series of events of Square pivoting towards the crypto ecosystem. And it's within the Cash App that is kind of the primary implementation there, if people are familiar with that. And it started really as pretty simple custody, buy, sell, hold. And so I got a ton of experience kind of thinking through how do you build a regulated platform around that very kind of basic use case of cryptocurrency with Bitcoin. And then that expanded over the kind of years that I was at Block through actually this year. And we offered everything from depositing Bitcoin into wallets, transferring out, on-chain transfers, parallel chains, different assets. And so that was really my entree. And then when I joined Paxos, I've had the opportunity to really kind of delve into other areas of crypto that aren't as consumer facing. Obviously, we're an infrastructure company, so we're focused on institutional clients primarily. But really getting to dive into the stablecoin side of things, as I said, just blockchain technology more broadly and how that can be utilized. And so that's been my experience.
So I took a slightly different path. I was in private practice, and I remember in Thanksgiving, and I was in the commodities, futures, and derivatives group at Sullivan & Cromwell, and we spent from 2010 onwards a lot of time working with clients in the trading space that wanted to set up sort of new and innovative trading structures and using new and innovative regulated products in the derivative space. So we spent a lot of time doing product characterization. How can I trade this? How can I offer leverage? How can I offer this to retail clients? How can I offer this abroad? And that just we just sort of sped right into clients that came in and had these types of innovations that they wanted to offer related to Bitcoin. And funnily enough, my first crypto client was Gemini in Thanksgiving of 2015. That was great. It literally was Thanksgiving Day.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. And the Cameron and Tyler were thinking really creatively and outside of the box in terms of like how can we offer sort of novel products to clients, sort of building on top of the spot exchange. So my entree was through the derivative space and have worked with a lot of crypto forward clients that were looking to offer this type of trading experience and trading activity in the US, outside of the US, trying to figure out how to create a very firm wall separating the two, given the lack of clarity in the US. And then it just sort of broadened as crypto innovators, investors sort of wanted different types of products, different types of assets. Obviously, token issuance was a big area that everybody focused on. But how do I offer clients yield? How do I get yield for myself? What's an NFT? How can I give my create a metaverse? So there's just an explosion of crypto activity. And lots of law firms were sort of tracking that. So that's how I got into it. And this is my first time in-house, so it's a lot of fun.
I also started my career at a firm right after the financial crisis and all the rules coming out of Dodd-Frank were being implemented, and it really felt like the ground was shifting, and crypto has that same familiar feeling now of you're kind of reasoning by analogy and trying to construct erect the rules for this marketplace. And around 2016, when a lot of our clients were getting interested in crypto, people said, oh, this sounds kind of weird, give it to Igor. And so I started learning about crypto. And honestly, same as Christine, through the institutional lens, like, is there anything here? And they're automatically thinking all these different product types. And it seems like, a bunch of years later, it's kind of now catching up. And being a Gemini, it's a great place to kind of, in exchange, you are dealing with every aspect of the legal landscape. So every day you're kind of navigating all of it. We might have different businesses, but the full suite of the issues that apply to crypto apply to exchanges wholesale, and so it's got that feeling of you kind of have to know the landscape and get a holistic sense that felt right after the financial crisis as well.
Thank you. Really interesting how you guys all ended up in the crypto world. So we could talk forever about your different businesses, but we kind of wanted to hone in on some specialties of each of the exchanges. So we wanted to ask Gemini to talk a little bit about the recent launch of the Gemini credit card.
Yeah, so we came out with a credit card recently. It's very cool. It's very sleek. And the innovation of the Gemini credit card is that you get rewards when you onboard. You make a Gemini account for the exchange, and you select the crypto that you would like rewards in. And when you get rewards back, it automatically purchases crypto into your account, and then you hold that crypto and you can interact with it, however you would as you were a customer. So there's kind of two groups, right? People who want some exposure to crypto through a familiar interface, like through the rewards system and through using a credit card, or those that have a strategy that they want to continually invest in crypto, and this eliminates some of the intermediation of having to do it manually. Again, it's kind of part of the broader strategy of creating this really easy to use and customer-friendly experience, because you manage your credit card through the same interface that manages your wallet, your exchange accounts, your custody accounts. So it's meant to be that kind of like a familiar product that gives people access to crypto, but also building out that experience that it's all in one place and familiar to you if you're a Gemini customer.
Is there still a wait list?
I can get you off of it.
Awesome. And Paxos has kind of pivoted to more this infrastructure game. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll focus on two things. I think like all of us up here, we do lots and lots of things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about stablecoin first, because I think it's of a lot of interest for people right now. The question, which I think is a valid one, that I often get asked is, what is the point of a stablecoin? Why would you even want one? If it's essentially $1, what's the utility there? So the first thing I want to say is all stablecoins are not created equal. I think one of the challenges that you've seen is that in the past week, there's been a lot of kind of confusion about what is a stablecoin, why are they potentially so risky. The short answer is a stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that's designed to be pegged to a stable asset. The Terra Luna stablecoin, or unstable coin, was pegged, it was essentially pegged to another cryptocurrency that in and of itself had no value. So you end up with a death spiral when you you see sort of a run on the bank on one of them, that means the other one's going to collapse too. So the stablecoin that we issue is backed by US dollars, cash and cash equivalents only. There's no commercial paper, there's no kind of risky assets, and they're also held in trust. And that's the sort of regulatory arrangement that we have with the NYDFS. So that means that if any of our customers ever wanted to come and redeem the stablecoin that we issue, they could do so at any given time, and they have the security that the dollar is sitting there. It's prudential oversight. And so it's really important to kind of, I think, note that, because stablecoins have certainly gotten a fairly deserved bad rap, and if they're not regulated properly, there is a lot of risk there. But from our perspective, the utility there is it's essentially the use case of taking an asset, which is $1, and tokenizing it, and then in doing so, you give people the ability to move that asset across blockchains, which are tremendously faster, more efficient, more transparent. There's a proof of ownership, which is incredibly valuable. And so if you think about extending that kind of tokenization to any asset, right? Like you could tokenize a house, you could tokenize for real estate transactions to settle it, and then you don't have to sign, anyone who's bought a house before, it's like you sign 5,000 papers. What if you just had to transfer that asset on a blockchain? All of a sudden, it's an immutable record of ownership. Yeah. And so there's this really amazing opportunity to tokenize assets, and we're using stablecoins as the proof of concept there. Obviously, stablecoins also have a couple of other big utilities. The first one is they're a hedge. You know, the US dollar is one of the most popular products in the world, and you think about people outside of the United States, it's incredibly hard to get your hands on dollars. Like, think about it. It's not a simple thing, and there are many countries in the world where there's either corruption or instability in their own, in their own economies. And so being able to hold something that is essentially backed by $1 US is incredibly valuable to those people. So we've seen tremendous uptake in stablecoins internationally. We've issued tens of billions of stablecoins, and so we issue our own stablecoin, as Igor mentioned, but we also white label stablecoins. So we white labeled the Binance stablecoin. It's BUSD. I think it's the top 4 stablecoin by market value in the world, tens of billions of dollars. And so that's one of sort of the infrastructure avenues, and we're working with lots of big institutional clients who like the fact that we're trusted and are thinking about how could they tokenize various assets that they hold for their customers. So that's one thing. And the other one, which I think my co-panelists will have a lot of overlap with, is we offer crypto brokerage services. So let's say PayPal, for example, they're a big customer of ours. They want to offer cryptocurrency buy, sell, hold, transfer to their end users, but PayPal doesn't have that much interest in building all of the infrastructure to do that and to finding liquidity partners who can facilitate those trades. So they come to Paxos. Paxos essentially provides the plumbing. We're the back end. Their customers don't know that they're working with Paxos, but it allows Venmo to flip a switch, and all of a sudden, all of those customers. So if anyone's ever bought crypto in Venmo or PayPal, that's really actually Paxos. And so we've really been able to carve out an interesting niche because we started from that regulatory first place. And so big institutional clients who would otherwise be pretty wary of working with crypto companies come to Paxos. And so those are just a couple of the examples of infrastructure that we're building around blockchain.
Thanks, Ben. And Coinbase, you recently launched an NFT platform. So
we did, super fun. We were in beta mode right when I joined, so they gave the legal team an opportunity to view it, and we just had a ball with it. And I think this is part of our Web3 strategy and creating sort of a seamless integration through Coinbase into Web3 ecosystem and then also into the regulated financial product space. Like that's our mission when we think about economic freedom and economic autonomy, giving people a range of options. So NFT platform is live, lots of interactions by our customers. There's a lot of engagement. It's pretty exciting to see, I think, because when we think about sort of economic freedom, we have this like pretty narrow lens, but when you think about creative opportunities to, sort of express yourself as part of the Web3 ecosystem, this fits in really nicely. People have taken a lot of these, even internally within Coinbase, and that's sort of their avatar. They'll buy an NFT on the marketplace, and that's how they present themselves. So lots of activity, lots of traction, and lots of customer engagement. And again, and this is frankly, I'm sort of stepping out of my role as Coinbase. It's really interesting. The focus was really on sort of seamless and frictionless customer access to this marketplace, which again, behind the scenes, there's so much plumbing that goes into that. I focus on the regulatory landscape. Like, what are the blockers? What do I need to address? Like, how can I launch this product? There was so much thought given into like, how do we make this something that like customers can easily access and utilize and enjoy using. So there's so much thought given to that like customer interface that you just don't see, and it's sort of hard to quantify. But the team really kind of that was sort of like part of the core mission in creating an NFT marketplace that was easily accessible to people in the crypto space or people who are sort of crypto adjacent and are interested in looking at an NFT marketplace, maybe buying an NFT, but sort of didn't have that infrastructure in place to make purchases on the sort of some of the initial platforms. So it's interesting. Obviously, in my lens, it's always sort of the regulatory first, like what's the regulatory friction? But with this, it was a lot of focus on customer integration.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So custody has evolved quite a bit over the past couple of years, and each of your businesses offer custody. At Chainalysis, we talk about custody a lot with different customers. Curious to get your perspectives on how you've seen the business evolve over the past couple of years, where you see it going. Igor, you want to start with you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Custody is a huge part of it was the origin story of Gemini is that wanted to build a place to be able to store digital assets safely and securely in a regulated way, and so that has been a continuous through line. What I've seen in my time at Gemini, even over the last year and a half, is when I joined, you think of custody as it's just kind of an undifferentiated product, but kind of building off what Ben said is you realize that there are different uses that different market participants have, and so interestingly, you'll have funds or ETF issuers or long institutions who want a really specific use case, which is a very direct access to a cold storage wallet with a seamless kind of way to move stuff in and out, but with security that they can really evaluate in a way consistent with how they would do it in a traditional financial institution, and that has become a very unique use case, and so we build that out. There's specifics you think about with the flows of cash in and crypto in and cash out and vice versa. But it's kind of a different flavor, even though the underlying tech of holding private keys and storing private keys is very similar. So that's one kind of flavor that has developed, I think, and evolved. And I think overall, even the whole retail customer base, institutional customer base continues to get more educated and wants more assurances around security. We've always tried to kind of meet that bar, but that education is increasing, and so you constantly have to always be providing a lot more transparency, a lot more information about how you run your systems. So that's another kind of change I've seen. It's an understanding of the back end, really.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't appreciate until I joined Coinbase is the level, the degree to which international market participants are seeking custody in the U.S. for their assets, and the rigorous KYC AML process is actually a selling point. They actually want that, and they want to go through it either on the front end with Coinbase or go through it on the back end with their customers, but particularly the large funds, but they really want that, and that is a selling point. And I think that's a really interesting lesson for policymakers. I think there's this idea that crypto is completely unregulated and it's the Wild West, but it's actually absent clear guidance and whether it's policy or regulation in the United States. We've built these sort of really native custodians that are complying with the very rigorous BSA requirements. And we've done it in such a way that they are, consumer friendly, but they're also sort of very regulatory rigorous. And the combination of the two is very appealing. So the inflow of funds from international participants in the space, particularly foreign banks, that's pretty significant.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll echo what my co-panelist said here. I think security is kind of the basis of custody, and that really hasn't changed. What has changed from my perspective is there's so much more proliferation of new kinds of chains, new different assets, and what that does is it creates complexities around kind of the inbuilt technology for security capability for each of the different chains. And you see customer demand is broad. They want to have every coin. They want to be able to issue on any chain. They want to be able to custody any kind of asset. And so there's that manifests for providers in a couple of ways. I mean, the first, which is very relevant to Chainalysis, is there's a constant game of trying to have visibility into cross-chain movement, into inter-chain movement.
And immediately.
Immediately.
Yes.
And that to me really goes back to the custody point, is being able to kind of give people confidence in where their assets sit and where they've moved, and also give regulators confidence that we understand where custody is happening. Gets more and more complex as you add chains and you add assets. So that to me is one of the things that we've spent a lot of time thinking about, is how do we build out a set of standards that we can communicate with our regulators about on new chains, so that we can give them the comfort that the new chains have the same security standards that the more well-known chains have, so that we can offer our prudentially regulated custody services.
And Ben kind of touched on the next topic that we're going to get into, but everyone has mentioned regulation a ton. It's super important to all of your businesses, but this industry is moving insanely fast. How do you balance being innovative, but at the same time complying with lack of regulation or regulation that might be coming or existing regulation? You want to keep going, Ben, since you started?
I'll keep going. No, I mean, look, I think it's just ruthless prioritization. Like every single day, we're faced with kind of questions of, what is the business opportunity in front of us, and then how does it either dovetail with, conflict with, agree with the regulation that we understand on any given day. For us, because being regulatory first is so much a part of our DNA, that's always going to be our top priority. And it's a pretty easy answer for us at Paxos in that way. But of course, you're trying to run a business and you're trying to build product, and so you do need to find places to innovate. I think for us, what we've been asking for and what we've been trying to kind of provide is regulatory certainty. I think we're trying to work with regulators to understand, to sort of communicate to them, okay, here's the business opportunity that we see, that our customers really want. How do you all view this? What does this look like to you? Who are the right regulators to have jurisdiction over that product? It's an ever-changing kind of target. I wish I had like a formula. I don't think there is one, and if someone tells you that they have one, they're lying. But I think it's a case-by-case basis. It's trying to weigh all of the equities and figure out what's really most important to you and to your customers. And we really believe that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so we'd rather get it right and really think about it than kind of throw something out into the market that's going to either endanger our customers or our regulatory standing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as we lean in towards the regulated financial product space, those relationships are super critical to us. And so, we had another layer in our thinking of, not just do we think it's permissible, do we think we could do it, but sort of what would be the implication for the regulator if we did it? Because we've got these trusted relationships. We don't want to undermine them when there's so much there's so little clarity, there's so much churn, there are these headlines that are coming out. We're very keen to make sure the optics of what we're doing are sort of consistent with what our regulators, want of us and expect with us, even if we don't have an explicit conversation about a particular product. We are always thinking, is this going to screw things up down the road? Yeah. And it really is a function of, the regulators, everybody's kind of trying to do their best in a space where, the interesting learning about derivatives was, we had this meltdown in 2008, and derivatives kind of went through this cleansing process of Dodd-Frank, and it was very painful when we emerged on the other side with this very aggressive regulatory regime, but it created this blessing to regulators. So it was okay, you are free to now go ahead and regulate these products. They've been through the sausage making on the Hill, and now you are free to go. We haven't had that with crypto. So a lot of what we're trying to do is, sort of stay lock-sync with our regulators. And then a lot of what we do is our policy team communicates to the Hill and to other agencies along the lines of what Ben said, our customers want this. Here's products that we're thinking. We've got no clarity. Let us tell you our views, and then you tell us ours. So we have this sort of, it's interesting, we have this chain of communication that goes from our product team to our policy team. And we're really just kind of feeding in real time. Here are the trends that we're seeing. Here are the requests that we're getting. And it's partially to keep them appraised. It's partially to educate them, but it's also partially to kind of build a track record so that when legislation does move through, our priorities are communicated, but really so policy makers are educated about what consumers want, and so that they're thinking in the front of the minds. Let's make a legislative. Our legislative priorities should be, consumer protection, but also promoting innovation, because that's what consumers want.
What about you, Igor?
I'm glad I'm going last so I can learn from you two, because the answer is that it's just really hard, right? Your balance is the right word. Regulation gets a lot of play in these discussions because there's areas of uncertainty, but just as a lawyer working for a company, there's a lot of legal risk you have to manage with products, and in addition to regulatory considerations. And what we try to do is exactly right, which is explain, what other panelists said, which is try to explain to the business side of things, like here's the things we care about, here's where you're taking real legal risk, and if you do this, like here's what really puts customers in danger and why we don't want to do that, or here's how we want to protect ourselves, and bring them into that conversation so they have that in mind. There's a lot of innovation, which means you can go in a lot of different directions, and we try to always say build the product so that it's really friendly for consumers and protective and keeps them in mind, because that's kind of that's what the ethos is built on. And that works, but you're constantly iterating on it. And from a regulatory perspective, there are areas where it's very clear that there's regulatory uncertainty and you need to engage and have clarity. Derivatives is a great example. Like it's ever evolving, and there we take the long view, right? And so you engage with regulators, you explain to business that it's going to be a very long process because the outcome of it has to be sanctioned.
Right? They totally lean into those conversations.
But it takes a lot of conviction, both from the legal side and the business side, to know that you want to build this right. If you want to do derivatives in the U.S. and they have to be regulated, you have to go through this process, build it correctly, get it regulated, and stand it up that way. But it's I don't know about daily, but you're constantly being assessed to have to assess what is the balance now and where do we land on it.
All three of you mentioned communication a number of times, so I guess that's the key here. And it's nice to hear that thinking about the consumers and making sure that that's who you're trying to solve for, and make the regulators aware of the implications of the regulations that they're imposing on these exchanges and regulated businesses. So we were joking before when we were getting ready for the panel that the legal and compliance area is like the sexiest spot of crypto. I don't think anyone would have ever thought that. So can you talk a little bit about, one, how you're finding talent, and two, how are you retaining talent when it's, jobs everywhere right now? And we'll start with, who wants to go first? Anyone?
I'll go first because I actually just went through this process,
okay,
right?
Cool.
I just jumped from from outside, being outside counsel to in-house. It's true. Legal and compliance is super sexy because the business now understands that they need our help to get their stuff out the door. If you want to ship something and you don't get legal and compliance to block and tackle for you, you can get out the door and a day later it's coming right back down. So we think of ourselves and sort of frame ourselves as like your trusted business advisors. Like we're not here to say no, but we're here to say, yeah, dude, if you do that, in 2 days, like that's not gonna work. Here are some solutions. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And in the best case scenario, you're sort of there at the first iteration of the product and you see it and you're like, look, that's gonna be a problem. We've got some time to solve it. Let me go and see what I can do. And whether that's getting comfort from outside legal counsel, if it's talking to the policy team, if it's talking to the finance team. So we frame ourselves I'm part of the trust and risk group, as like we're your trusted business partners. Like we're going to help you get this stuff out the door. And business has learned that given the lack of legal and regulatory clarity and certainty, like they need us. And so I think that message has landed. I mean, I think that message has really resonated. I know I joked with Igor, talking to the product, like this is going to take some time. They get that because at the end of the day, they want to ship the product. And so if I say, look, I can do it for you, but it's going to take some time, they're okay with that. So that's the first part. The second part of sourcing talent, it's actually pretty cool. Like we pull talent in from everywhere because there's so many issues. Just like Igor said, like regulatory uncertainty is a predominant issue, but there's so many other commercial issues that we're trying to solve for, like IP, there's a range of them. Like there are, and just sort of, legal issues that are tangential to running a business. Like there are just so many different types of legal questions that we're trying to solve for. We just pull in talent from everywhere. And so the other fun thing is like, this is a relatively new space. Like you're not, trying to source talent from someone who's been here for 20 years and knows all the precedent and created all the precedent. Like we're creating the precedent like right now in real time. So we don't have to find the expert in X, Y, and Z. We want to find someone who is proactive, solution-oriented, thinks that regulatory uncertainty is fun and is okay navigating a crypto winter, and like wants to be part of the team and like create a sort of a framework here to launch this business. So, some things we need like specific subject matter expertise, but really it's just like, what's your attitude like? Are you ready to dive in and solve like a really big problem, a really small problem, and stay cool and calm, during times of great churn and turmoil? So I think there's space for everyone, which is also just an awesome thing about crypto.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll go next. I mean, it's as a lawyer, it's a wide range of stuff that you get to work on, and you do get to be at the forefront, which is exciting and terrifying, right? But when I interview people, I kind of just here's the menu of stuff we're working on, and come and you can own some or all of that, because we need people to own things, and that usually you find people who are really curious and want to take the lead, and that's how just the range of you have to explain that there's a range of opportunity and legal issues, and also explain that the culture is one that's going to support thoughtful deliberation and cooperation, and we've had a lot of luck getting people who are excited about that. And the retention part of it is you don't want to fall in the trap of you're really good at this one thing, so you do that thing forever and ever. Let people experience a lot of a range of projects and subject areas. You've never done IP, go do IP with the person who's the expert and see if you like it. And I think that gives people. We've had a lot of luck having longevity on the team because of that.
Anything to add, Ben?
I mean, I think you covered a lot of it. Just candidly, there's a FOMO happening, right? People do not want to miss this opportunity, and so it's been really interesting to me in recruiting calls or in interviews. People who you sort of write off as they're not going to be interested in this role are really excited to learn more and be a part of kind of shaping this world, and so that's been really fun because you have access to talent that's really fabulous, and I think as my colleagues up here said, there are ways to bring your expertise, regardless of what kind of practice of compliance or law that you're in, to bear in our business, because you have to be able to sort of analogize and say, all right, well, I haven't seen this exact thing because it's crypto and it's a different technology, but I've seen something that feels similar, and so what if I apply that? And so I think people gravitate to that kind of problem-solving piece. And then the retention thing, I think, for all of us, part of what's exciting about, I think, our businesses is that we have really clear-eyed vision on what we want to do and the change that we want to make. And I think if you test for that when you're bringing people on and make sure that they're really bought into the idea of what we're trying to build, then people get super invested in it and they want to be a part of it and they don't want to leave and go do something else. These jobs are not kind of fungible in the way maybe other jobs would be, because you're in that building stage and people get really personally invested in seeing the success of those businesses. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, the mission is so critical.
Yeah.
You definitely feel like it's like a family. Like you're all you're working towards the same
Yep,
ultimate goal, which is very, very
together.
cool.
Yep.
So I feel like these panels always get asked what keeps you up at night, and I am tired of being so negative. So we're going to ask each one of these panelists what your biggest success has been since entering the crypto market. Who wants to go first?
You asked me that, and I was thinking, and just to piggyback off the last question, I think we've really built a great team, and I got to hire a few people to work on a range of products, and it's the best job I've ever had, and the team, you spend so much time together, and you're working on really thorny issues, so I'm really proud. I feel like we've got a really good foundation to build forward, so that's number one for me.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a tough answer to beat because that's like really sentimental.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I went first. I thought
well done. I'm excited, and sorry, I'm speaking on sort of one side of the house, but like the development of the legal bar in the space, like it's a lot of like young lawyers, it's a lot of young creative lawyers, and I think it's offered an opportunity for sort of more diverse people to come and have their views sort of valued as being incredibly important because they are diverse and offer a different way of looking at things and looking at a different way of thinking of things. So, not just is this the legal bar developing this like really innovative body of law, sort of in the absence of legal certainty and clarity. Like the bar itself, like I think looks we still have far to go, but I think it looks relatively different than sort of other more traditional legal bars. And I think there's just like an increasing opportunity and interest in sort of broadening the range of diversity of people that are active in this bar. There are just so many different entry points into this space. I think we can lean in really aggressively and create sort of a pool of legal talent that's much more representative of, the way we want it to look and the way it should look. So that to me is really exciting.
All right, she matched your answer at least. That was a really good one. So now you're in the hot seat.
This is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
No, I know. I mean, I explained Bitcoin mining to my dad last week, and I was pretty proud of that. This was preceded by him saying, "I don't know what you do, but I'm extremely proud of you." So, anyways.
My parents have just given up. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of that, yeah.
That, and the question is, what should I be doing to invest in crypto? Those are the questions. No, I mean, I think it would be unfair for me to take a lot of credit for Paxos. I've been there for a relatively short period of time. So for me, it really was kind of launching Block's foray into cryptocurrency. Square, Cash App is, I think, the biggest consumer-facing financial app in the United States. It's like something like 50 million monthly active users. It's massive at scale. And it was just a tremendous challenge to think about how do you build like a global compliance program that is consumer forward, that's frictionless, that has sort of all that fintech bells and whistles, but is still fully compliant. And it was really hard, and it was certainly not just me, it was a huge team effort. But really it set the stage for, I think, mainstream adoption of that in a lot of ways after kind of the last crypto winter. So definitely proud of that, and it was also kind of my first foray into this. So
I don't know if we got the answer. You were told on December 1st that
we got it.
You got it done within 3 weeks.
We got it done. Yeah, I think it might have been December 26th, but I think we had it out just around Christmas.
That is super impressive then.
Yeah.
So I think all three of those answers were really good. And I like that we were doing a little bit of a positive spin instead of talking negative. So we have a couple minutes left. You guys were gracious enough to open it up to audience questions if anyone has a question for any of these panelists.
How do you trade off between, when you talk about custodial services for international customers, right? How do you trade off between privacy laws in each country relative to, how do you hold custody to local government laws?
That is a great question. Happily, I don't do privacy, but we have a whole privacy team. Like, we literally have a privacy team, and we have privacy lawyers situated in most major jurisdictions, like as part of that privacy team, to figure out between GDPR, we don't have a federal privacy law in the U.S. We have, California is sort of the floor for us, we just have a dedicated team of lawyers, but. And not me.
The privacy, again, it's a crypto company, it's a crypto exchange, but it's still a company, right? And so the privacy issues come up with any way that you interact with customers, their information, how they interact with your website, all that stuff. And you have to have very good operations internally that the custody of private keys and the custody of crypto, right, is a very secure system, separate apart from the other parts of other kinds of information you handle, and then you apply the suite of controls and legal restrictions and compliance tools they use for that data. So, again, it's kind of custody operations as such, like the literal holding of the crypto assets has to be, separate and secure, and then privacy kind of built on top of that wherever it's needed. But you're right. It is the proliferation of privacy laws around the world makes it a very hard job to stay on top of. So you're constantly battling it.
Yeah. So over the past couple of years, I've been working on crypto stuff and blockchain at the World Economic Forum, and recently we did a bunch of research where we were particularly, with the financial inclusion case, looking at the availability of exchanges, right, in emerging markets. And so what we saw when we were trying to look at the applicability. Now, the ultimate question was, or answer rather, was no, because of sort of like the blockages. So looking at an exchange like Coinbase, we saw that a lot of emerging market countries could hold cryptocurrency within Coinbase but cannot buy and sell. So kind of curious to see like, where you guys are going in terms of expansion to emerging markets and how you're opening up the use cases there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's a core one, and we have a global policy team that is literally talking to regulators in a number of emerging markets. I mean, I think Brazil and India are core ones. We're looking very closely at sub-Saharan Africa and trying to figure out like what is our best entry point. And it's not like what's the entry point, but like really what's the best entry point. But it really is, there are so many sort of regulations that you've got to match up and make sure that you're aligned with. And it's also just a lot of education. It's sort of, this is what we are, this is what we are not, this is what these assets do, this is not what they do. So we have a number of target jurisdictions in emerging markets. We're leaning in really hard there. And I think for us, it's just figuring out like how do we expand the map so that we can provide access to consumers everywhere. I think our CEO has an objective of bringing in 1 billion people into the crypto ecosystem, and this is like the core part of the strategy, is sort of unlocking these regions, whether it's Brazil, India, Nigeria. It's going to take some time, but that is, we are pressing ahead very hard on that.
So I wish we could talk for a lot more time, but unfortunately we are out of time. So I just want to thank all of our panelists, and I don't want to speak for any of you, but I'm sure you guys will stick around for some questions in person.
Absolutely.
Right here?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you taking the time.